can't walk down the baking section of a grocery store without thinking of my mother. For all the smarts my mother had, she was a very smart woman, she could not remember that she already had 12 boxes of ground beef. She would bring one home every time. Cooking wasn't one of her strengths either. She always managed to feed us, but we could never quite figure this out, but dinner was always leftover. Most of her meals that were kind of close to original meals were like, we would call it brown stuff out of a crock pot. We still talk about the day she served us popcorn as the main course. I think I forgot if you were shopping or if I only brought home brownie mixer. We kidded my mom a lot about this kind of stuff, and she always took it with really good-naturedly. She was always still willing to laugh when we teased her. And it's because she knew she was cool, and she knew that we knew it too. And so it didn't matter to her if we teased her at all, she loved it. Kristen told this story as an example of my mom not taking herself too seriously. So we were driving up to our summer cottage in Massachusetts, and there was a lot of traffic on the road, and it was stopped, and most of the drivers around us were kind of in a surly mood. My mom was in the passenger seat, and she said, well, this won't do. So she decided, she reached back, got a bathing suit, put it over her head, and started making faces out the window. Kristen, what was the face you were making?
Like this.
What was it?
And Mom had all the people around her in stitches, so that... She facilitated all of us exploring our passions, but she never pushed us. Kristen tells the story of Annika, her daughter, wearing a shirt that says, "Be yourself," and how Grandma really liked that and went out and pointed out to Annika that that's very, very important to be yourself. Both my mom and my dad knew themselves very well, and they nurtured us to know ourselves and to be happy people. Because they knew themselves so well, they were good planners. Sometimes at the expense of spontaneity, as Kristen would always point out to them. Barb and Marty carefully planned how to be happy in every stage of their lives, including prioritizing family while balancing productive careers that they each had. They figured out the way to have two paradise homes. Their friends, Bill and Barb Wiley, called them the role models for retirement. I think other people in this room have felt that way too. Their planning even extended to their passing. The readings and the music and many other aspects of the service that we're at today were outlined by my mother meticulously in memos to us. And this wasn't in any kind of self-important way. She was doing this to make it easier on us. She knew that we would want to have a ceremony that was appropriate for her, and so she took the time to think about how to write memos to let us know what she would like. Mom had a lot of nicknames in our family. Barbab, Midzi, Babaloo, Babbers, Mama Llama. Mama Llama came from something that Annika and Kristen and my mother would do. Annika, how did it go?
Happy llama, sad
Happy llama, sad llama.
llama, big happy llama.
Let's try it now. Ready?
Happy mama, sad llama, big happy mama llama.
That's all it
That
took.
wasn't. Oops, we just lost that.
Because Kristen would have a habit of
There
kind of free associating, rambling out nicknames until she decided on one, and that nickname would stick for about a week. And so when Annika was doing Mama Llama, it became Mama Llama. And that was one of her kind of the last nicknames I think we used for her was Mama Llama. My mother loved crafts. Many of you in this room will have keepsakes for Barbara. She made a point of hand stitching and framing commemorative embroideries for the weddings of each of her kids and each of her nephews and nieces. The embroidery out about taking time to smell the flowers is outside. She made scores of them, and they were all crafted with love. My mom also made Christmas ornaments each year, so that that every year, many of us in this room will have a fond memory of my mother and her focus on things that were subtle yet meaningful. The ornaments, some of them are on display out there, so you can see some of the things that she made. In retirement, Barbara and Marty embraced the beauty of Oahu, Hawaii, and Branch Lake, Maine. They spent 6 months in each place for about 20 years. She and Dad brought the Hawaiian tradition of pupu, which is a late afternoon relaxation and snack, to all places that they went. They extended it with what they called the window. The window started at pupu time, and when the window opened, you could start to drink beer, wine, and gin and tonics until pupu time closed. In doing so, they imparted a lifetime bartending skill on Daniel, who was their gin and tonic maker. And Daniel, I'm sure it's something that's going to serve you very well in college. In retirement, Barbara continued to enjoy the company of old friends and new. She loved playing bridge on the beach, enjoying pupu time overlooking Kaneohe Bay and Branch Lake alike. She really bonded with my cousin Jill, her niece, and her family in Hawaii. She loved her membership in the PEO, both in Hawaii and here, something that she did back in Connecticut as well. In Maine, she reveled in the friendship of new friends that she met around the lake, like Vincent Gibby Griffin, Paul and Vi White, and Carl and Candace Winslow. She and my dad moved to Colorado in 2008, leaving Hawaii. They wanted to be closer to all of us. Hawaii is obviously a wonderful, beautiful place, but they felt sometimes too far away from their family, which was most important to them, so they wanted to come back here. Here, they got the full grandparent experience. They were being very much a part of Lynn and her husband Andy's life, and helping out with their 2 children, Stephanie and Daniel. They would drive to various lessons, watch performances, do babysitting, and loved every second of it. Being on the mainland allowed them to be a bigger part of the lives of my family and my sister Kristen's family as well. They could visit us more often. And my mother and my father drew us every year to Maine, to their place in Maine, for 3 weeks of some of the best family time that anyone could ever hope for. All families would come and be together with them up in Maine. Grandma Wolfe was adored by her grandchildren, Casey, Annika, Daniel, Eric, Sean, and Stephanie. You'll be hearing some of their favorite memories of Grandma a little later on in the ceremony. If you watch the slideshow again, it was on up here and it'll be on afterwards, you'll see many, many pictures of Barbara playing games with her kids. She would play any game, anytime, with anyone. That includes playing games with Casey. Casey's game, Casey would make up games that Grandma would play along with, and he would change the rules every move. She would just play along with it every time. So in summary, I wanted to pick the right words to end my tribute to my mother. So I picked 9 words. The first 6 have a little story, and I'll tell this to you. At the end, last week, I did not leave the hospital room that my mother was in for 3 days. I stayed there the entire time. She wasn't able to speak. She was basically unable to speak. But we could tell that she could hear us. Sometimes she would squeeze our hands and make a motion to us. So we knew that she could hear us. And so towards the end, myself, Lynn, and Kristen each took time to say goodbye to her. And I said my goodbyes alone. And then I was there when each Lynn and Kristen said their goodbyes. And it was interesting that all 3 of us ended our goodbyes to my mother with the same 6 words, 6 of my 9. We all ended the same way. Thank you, Mom. I love you. So those are 6 of my final words. Thank you, Mom. We love you. 3 more.